League One, Sheffield Wednesday, you'd never take that job.
I'd never take that job.
You'd never take that job.
Just to put that on,
Just to be clear.
on record.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the League of 72. This is glorious. I'm about to chat with Chris Wilder, who's got nearly 1,000 games as a manager, having, well, some would think a much needed break, but we've sort of had a little chat already, and you're ready already, which we're going to kind of dive into. And thank you so much for welcoming us into your home.
Welcome to Sheffield,
Yeah.
Glorious Sheffield, as you said.
That's it, yeah.
I'm not so sure that's always the case.
It was for me. I went to university.
Yeah, I know you did.
So coming back is just a lot of good memories and some fuzzy ones as well. Anyway, it's not about me. Let's talk about you, because you've had a few months out of the game now. Let's talk about that time off. Like, how are you finding it? Because I guess that's the key words there. Time. You've got a bit of time to think and reflect. Yeah,
For the first time in 20 odd years, I think went into management, as you said, nearly 1,000 games under my belt. So that's quite a number of years. So. Everybody talks about it, you need it, and I've seen a couple of pictures towards the back end of my time at Sheffield United and looking in the mirror now, so I look a little bit fresher. So maybe that's the pressures that management, especially in the Premier League, and especially when things weren't going as well as we'd have all liked to have gone. But no, it's in you, it's in my blood. I've from first time really not working since I was 16-year-old apprentice at Southampton, so quite a number of years, quite a lot of games, and obviously raring to go, refreshed and looking to get back in. Because
I guess you obviously don't want to have that break, but it comes and it's maybe a little bit further down the road. You go, okay, maybe I did need it. Do you think you needed it, or when you look back on having this period of time, have you been able to kind of calculate things, conclude things?
Quite sad that I'm still not working at a club that I loved and got a lot of affection for and a huge amount of connection with. So, and as well, I've thrown myself into every job that I've taken with the same passion and commitment. From the first one to I suppose the last one when I eventually retire, but I'm not ready for retiring. And I think one of the big things that you always look to do is of course reflect, and it does give you that opportunity to reflect. And I was even talking to a pal of mine today who's working in the Premier League at academy level, and it does give you an opportunity of reflecting regarding the game as well, the whole game. So you reflect on your career, your recent career, the good bits. Of course, you've got to look at that as well. What went well, the obvious stuff that didn't go so well, and what you would do better going into your next job, and the overall industry as well. I think it gives you an opportunity, because you don't get time. You just do not get time, because whatever it is, whether it's a championship or it was the Premier League for 2 years, it's so relentless, it's so intense, you're moving on quick. It's so.
Because what was your first job? Do you remember what year was your first job?
Yeah, I think it was 2000, 2001. I was player manager, Alfreton Town, which is a little town about half an hour, 45 minutes down the road in Derbyshire, which I loved. And we had, a fabulous short period. I think it was about 27 games, and it was great. I was playing as well and really enjoyed it. I was wrapped around some really good players.
And you've been humbled there, because I think, was it 27 games, 4 trophies in 27 games?
Listen,
I mean, that's as good as it gets to start off with, right?
Yeah, listen, we had a great side, and the chairman backed it straight away. And we were favourites. The reason that I got the job is because the team wasn't doing too well, and it should have been doing a lot better than what it was. But it was, I'm not really, because I'm being honest and truthful. That it was a team that didn't really need a lot of work, and I enjoyed playing it as much as I enjoyed managing it.
Because the reason I bring that up is, from there to now, that's 20 years where. Even after the last day of the season, I presume you get a week at most, or probably, well, there you go, even less, and then you're never able to look backwards, because you've got to look forwards.
You don't get a week, you don't get a minute, because it's with you all the time. And I think my wife will be the best person to ask about that, because she recognises that the game's always with you, and I think it is. And I believe anybody who says that they have an opportunity to switch off and take time out, and you have all these people who say, get yourself away, get a rest, get yourself on a beach, clear your head. You don't get time to do that. And I haven't had time to do that for 20 years. And then I have an opportunity to do it now and want to get back amongst it. So it's me who I think I'm the one that's a little bit crackers, really.
No, I doubt. Well, it's you, isn't it? It's like it's all you know, and you've been very successful doing it as well. And I can't even imagine the buzz of being a manager. Speaking of your wife, there, I was just thinking. So you have the first morning after, leaving the job at Sheffield United. Then maybe the second one, you go out for lunch. Day 3.
We watched Sheffield United. We watched Sheffield United at Leicester on the Sunday in the living room, going, "What's happening here?"
Okay, so if we're honest, you've had a 2-day break.
2-day break, and that's about it. Yeah.
Let's talk about Sheffield United, and what would you say is your overriding emotion of that time at Sheffield?
Oh, incredibly proud to bring the club back together again. Regardless of the incredible experiences you had through that period of, winning games. The first season, getting to 100 points. The second season, first time we played our rivals for a bit, so there was an experiences in that. Back into the Championship where the club should be minimum. Having 6 years outside the Championship, and then obviously the journey into the Premier League, and even the experiences, in the season that didn't go so well, and just as there was a huge disconnect between every part of that football club that I felt, because I was still living in the city as well. Yeah. And I think just bring that little bit of pride back into the badge from a playing point of view, what the players were doing and what we were doing together. And I always thought that the club was at its best when it was as a together, connected club, and it certainly was. Yeah,
and I mean that group of players. Those players, made their way through with you. With the League of 72, obviously we focus on the teams outside the Premier League. Often you kind of go, he's a League One player, he's a League Two player. You've got someone like Chris Basham, who, is all of them, if you know what I mean. Do you believe there's anything in that you can kind of see that someone kind of has a ceiling, and if I'm wrong in that, because I think you've proven that it can be wrong, how do you kind of get around that? Like, how do you sort of allow people's ambitions to kind of soar, and I guess their end product to soar as well?
They've got to be good enough, and there's a lot of players outside the Premier League that are good enough to play in the Premier League that we've seen for a long time. Whether it's Jamie Vardy, whether it's James Maddison, whether it's Calvin Phillips at Leeds, Bamford at Leeds, we can sit here all afternoon and talk about the EFL. I think there's even stuff going around in the summer regarding the England team. How many of those players? Harry Maguire locally, Carl Walker locally, John Stones locally. So for me, it's with the players if they've got the drive and the determination, the ambition, and to work hard at the game. Of course, I think that you do get players that hit a ceiling and unfortunately can't carry on that journey. Which there was some players at Sheffield United that couldn't do it. They couldn't do it from League One to the Championship. Certainly from the Championship to the Premier League. And the key was, obviously, which was a disappointing part of it, is that to sustain those standards, to stay in the Premier League. And I think that's why I've got and I've said this, an enormous amount of respect for the likes of James Milner, who year in, year out produces performances, possibly not playing as much as he would have wanted to over the last 2 or 3 years, but day in, day out, he's a Premier League player. So can you turn yourself from playing in the Premier League to being a Premier League player? So the likes of the boys at Burnley, the likes of the boys at West Ham, Leicester, these boys that day in, day out, that are Premier League players, because having a taste of it, knowing how difficult it is, knowing it's full on every day, every game. And I think people talk about different leagues in the world and in Europe, and that's why I think the majority, if not all the time, the opinion is the Premier League is the hardest and the strongest league in the world, because it is full on for 38 games for 9 months, and ultimately the team that comes out at the top are the team that's done it day in, day out.
Yeah, a lot of the time people kind of talk about the Championship being kind of the most competitive league. I think a lot of people could say it might be League One this year, because which just shows you how it's kind of filtering down with so many big clubs in League One. But for Sheffield United, coming up from League One to the Championship, and how you set about tackling that league tactically, I thought was, and again, something that kind of just I don't think really got the sort of kudos it deserved at the time. When you then go into the Premier League, and I think you seem very unique to other teams. Can you just kind of explain the overlapping fullbacks, that element of it, and the explanation of how you got to it?
Well, I've been told by my peers not to give all my secrets away.
Right.
So, and when we've done a couple of bits, and obviously I'm part of a group. I had a fantastic assistant manager, Alan Neil, and the backroom staff were brilliant. And I think that was important as well, that that we created that environment. Your staff are so important, and I had a brilliant group at Sheffield United who worked tirelessly, and we worked tirelessly together collectively. So. Of course, it would come out as from me, but I've got to say, I was part of a process, and it was a process that evolved really, from early on in terms of playing 3 centre halves, in terms of playing 2 up front, because I believed, I suppose that was the only thing that I would say, is that I believed that we needed to play 2 up front for Sheffield United in League One.
Right.
And we needed somebody up front with the best player at the football club, who was Billy Sharp. And he can play up front on his own, but I always believed he'd be better in a 2. I believe Sheffield United would be better with 2 up front in League One. So you had to work your way around it. I mean, at the start we went 4-4-2, and so until we just changed it around, we needed to get somebody in the team that had a little bit more experience and a bit more of a communicator, which he did. And we needed to play Mark Duffy a little bit more central, who became an integral part of that team from League One into the Championship, into the second season in the Championship, and then us to get promoted. So there was bits and pieces around it. Teams sitting deep. I've talked about how to win a game of football. I think there's different ways to win a game of football, and I think you have to be not only formation wise and tactically astute on that to change your formation and flip things around. I think there's still a different way of playing, whether it's round over or through, and I've been taught that as a player from my early days at Southampton as an apprentice. Don't be afraid to mix your game up, and we did, and a couple of the players were comfortable. We had a lot of possession, as we would do in League One, and but I think the big transition was the transition. Can we do that in League One into the Championship, because it's a whole different level? Mm-hmm. But I think that was more of an attitude thing. That we weren't going to change our attitude in terms of going for games and being on the front foot and taking the game to the opposition and trying to drive their best players back and trying to give the opposition more problems than they gave us. Yeah,
I was going to ask, is it as simple as that? Because I guess the jump then happens to the Premier League as well, and they know how to play, they know how to set up. Does it come down to, is attitude a huge part of it, to not take a backward step? Because I think you can naturally go up a division and be fearful.
Yeah, of course. I think you've got to recognise that you're in an whole different ball game in the Premier League. That you're not going to have possession of the ball like we did in the Championship. You might have 35-40% possession. We tweaked that a little bit, and we talked about counter-attacking football. Which you see even now in the Premier League. It's incredible, how one team goes from the edge of their box to your box in nothing. When we played some of the teams that we played, and you just go, wow, what's happened there? You lose the ball on the edge of their box and you think you're in control. You've got possession of the game. You're not in danger. Then all of a sudden, they're at the other end, and Dean Henderson's making a save for you. So we tweaked it a little bit because we thought we needed an extra body in the middle of the park, and we sacrificed that. But I think once you get into the Premier League, which I've talked quite a lot about, is a settled side, which we had in the first year. The back eight really played we mixed the forwards up, but we took big moments in games. And when reflecting as I've done over this period, looking back at the season, and I go, how important was Billy Sharp's first goal in the 91st minute? How important was Mousset's equaliser at Chelsea? How important was that first win against Crystal Palace? How important was Ollie Mack's equaliser against Man U? Right the way through, we took big moments, and picked up the necessary points.
So I guess you can always, I guess you reflect on the good bits, you reflect on the disappointing bits. You can have as many numbers as you want. What do you want? This fly seems to want to ask a question. You can look at the numbers as much as you want, but sometimes there are just seasons where, in that split-second moment, you take it, and split seconds you don't. Did you think that was the big difference between the
huge difference?
First season and second season?
Again, you talk even about the fixture list, how that comes up, and big moments in the first 4 games of last year. We had just as many opportunities as we did at Chelsea, Bournemouth, Palace, and I don't know what the 4th game was in the Premier League. We had just as big moments in.
And it was always by 1 goal, wasn't it?
But we just had the big moments there, and that changes attitudes, changes confidence in players, and as well, the supporters just made an incredible difference to players. And fortunately, I've had that experience. I know what it's like to play at Bramall Lane when it's rocking, and I know what a lift it gives you. You run, it's amazing, you run quicker, you jump higher, you can run for longer distances. You're more confident on the ball when they're right behind you. And they were, and it was the proverbial 12th man. And teams didn't like coming to Bramall Lane. There's no, and you saw it, you visibly saw it. And that's not being disrespectful, but it was an uncomfortable environment, and that's what we wanted to make it. And the players made it through their performances, and the supporters made it through the noise and the backing that they gave the team. Yeah,
so difficult when you haven't got that extra yard, especially, you need to win your home games as well, don't you, in that division. In terms of memories of that Championship season going up, when I sort of say that to you, Sheffield United that year, what do you go straight to as just your favourite moment from that promotion season?
I think if you gain promotion, you have a success in a season. I think it's littered with big moments, through last minute goals, through important away victories, through big home results. Even a result that on paper would look as if, dear me, what's going to happen to Sheffield United off the back of this? A 3-3 draw at Villa, where we were 3-0 up with 8 minutes to go. But from a deeper sort of point of view, thought process point of view from myself, what happened after the game, what the attitude was like after the game, going into the next two or 3 days leading up to the next game, and what went off since then, after that, sorry.
So what did happen after that game?
The run was incredible. We went away to some incredibly tough places and got results. At West Brom, who were up there, at Leeds, obviously were up there, right the way through. Norwich, and there was some fantastic sides in there and some brilliant teams. And I've got to say, I believe there was 12 to 14 teams that could have gone up that season, not just got in the playoffs, and it was a powerful division. There was a lot of dough getting chucked at it. Yeah. There was your Middlesbroughs, there was your Forest, there was the Derbys, West Broms, Villas, us, Leeds, Norwich, and a load of other teams, another 4 or 5 that were really going for it, and they were really in the mix. And so to come through in the way we did, it was sort of an epic sort of last 6 weeks of the season. Norwich had got the noses in front, and I think everybody thought that Norwich had just done enough to, and rightly so, win the division. But obviously the sort of seesaw tussle back and forth with Leeds United was amazing from our point of view, because we managed to just pip an outstanding team and an outstanding manager.
And in that sort, I always think it's that sort of march on, starting to get, the weather's getting a little better on your way, starting to wear a short sleeve shirt on the way to the game, stuff like that. And you kind of have just a new buzz.
You feel it. It's incredible.
So was there a game in that period where you kind of, once you'd won that one, you were like, this is ours, guys?
Well, I didn't think it was ours because I knew it'd go right the way down to the wire. But like I said, the Villa game, I just thought that, the way that we played, the way we sort of dismantled a really good side, and the reason why it kicked off, it was because there was a couple of errors from the goalkeeper who was absolutely. He'll tell you that it wasn't his fault, obviously. Of course. And I love him for everything that he does and how he is. That was one of the reasons, and the attitude of the group from there on in. We never thought that we'd cracked it, because I've got so much respect for the teams in around us, the quality teams, the experienced managers, and the standard of the players in that division. So I would never say there was one bit that you thought, it's over to us. There was twists and turns right the way through it, from us going to Leeds and winning, Millwall getting a last-minute equaliser against us in the 94th minute. The result at Leeds, where Wigan with 10 men won 2-1. Yeah. So I think, I basically thought that the only time where you really thought this is in our own hands is when I stepped off the bus. We beat Hull on Bank Holiday Monday, and Leeds had to go to another really good team in Brentford. And unfortunately, fortunate for us, they didn't get the result that they wanted. And all of a sudden, from out of nowhere, it's if you beat Ipswich next Saturday, you got 1 foot in the Premier League, and Ipswich having a tough season, and I don't think anybody was going to deny us going into that game. Yeah,
and they set up a good party as well, didn't it?
We always set up a good party. I think one thing that the boys will have experienced over the last 4 or 5 years is that if we're having a go, we really do have a go.
I think that I always think with people with managers, you think their team should have a bit of them in it. Is that, it feels like there was that with Sheffield United, that you can go and have a drink, but you've got to be together and you've got to be honest with each other. And that's why you love that moment so much. Am I right?
Yeah, I think that's been a style of my management. I'm as disciplined as anybody, and head on time, and we're working time as anybody. And the players who've worked with me right the way through, whether it's Alfreton, whether it's through Halifax, Oxford, into Northampton and into Sheffield United, even in the early days, that Monday to Friday is incredibly important. And those players wouldn't have put those performances out and wouldn't have got the results if they hadn't have tuned in and put everything into it. I think sometimes, for me, I've always thought that when you do achieve something, you have to really relish it and maximise it, because it doesn't come around every year. And you look at players that have played 400 and 500 league games. And you would say that's a decent career, and it's not Frank Lampard or Steven Gerrard, where you've played 100 times for England and you've won trophies, you've won Premier Leagues, and you've won this, that, and the other. And that, as I said, I respect those guys. The people that make up the bulk of football are the ones in the 72 in the EFL that have a promotion every 3 or 4 years, and some might go through with a few more than others, and some might go through with no promotion. So when it comes around, you've got to enjoy it.
Absolutely, yeah. As a QPR fan, I often think about that. I've got mates who are Everton fans.
Yeah,
that's great being an Everton fan.
Yeah,
as long as you were born 10 years before 1995.
Yeah.
But in terms of winning's winning.
Yeah.
So me, Bobby Zamora, winning the playoffs or going for the promotion or whatever it is, it matters. Yeah. It's amazing, and you take it with you forever. So you've got to relish those moments. I think it's amazing. When you did move up there, that Premier League spotlight, I imagine it goes up and up. The additional media has to be huge. How did you find that? Because those interviews are just so huge for the narrative of your club throughout the season, aren't they?
Yeah, testing. Yeah, you've got to be prepared. You've got to be ready. Not the speculation, the coverage is incredible. You know, I think the first time it hit us all was our media day at Sheffield United. Well, our media day before was a team photo on the pitch. You know, Yorkshire Post, Yorkshire Live, Sheffield Star, Radio Sheffield. If I've missed anybody out, I apologise. Alan Biggs, who's a freelance guy who lives around here. So, you know, you got to know them all. I mean, I got to know them all anyway because we used to have our Christmas party with the journos at Bramall Lane, and so there was, you know, a dozen of those guys with the local managers. So you knew everybody. Then all of a sudden, we're in an indoor area at the training ground. You know, a 90 by 60 area, and it's absolutely mobbed from every part of the world, and asking you to, you know, to say this in this language, to do this, to do that, to do the other, and then all of a sudden you go, wow, here we are. This is what it's all around. And I think the best way I could describe it is I just thought every Premier League was an event. That's how it was. It was, you know, the things that the lead up to it, you know, before, during, after, you know, people having an opinion on you personally, on the players, on your team, an analysis afterwards on how you'd done and whatever. It was incredible. So much scrutiny, and you had to be careful that, you know, you didn't take all that to heart. Fortunately, we had a fabulous first season, so there was a lot of positive said about us, and we took that, and deservedly so, because it was, and I will say this. I think, you know, pound for pound, it's for a newly promoted side. I you know, in terms of where the club come from, and the players that it had, still from League One days, and how we went about it. You know, I'm very proud of that, and I think people look at it in the game and go, yeah, it was a fabulous season. Unfortunately, we couldn't keep that going. But the media attention's huge, and that's what makes it such a fabulous division.
Yeah, and obviously with all press, especially when there's more press and scrutiny, you know, that you'll have good judgments, you'll have cheeky judgments, you'll have frustrating judgments. Like, how did you find that? Because I know I've heard you speak in the past about, you know, sometimes you like putting something on the wall.
Yeah.
I think you had a WhatsApp group with the players. You go, you know, when you have those kind of stories that get written about you, or the team, sorry, more often. How did you find that?
I'd be very surprised if any manager in the world or in the Premier League would not use stuff for the advantage of their team to motivate them. Very surprised. So I don't think I'll be on my own. And some of it, you know, a little bit of it, and some of it hurt because it come from people that you respect. I think, you know, criticism hurts when it does come from people you respect. So, but they've their right to do that, which is fine, and it's done in an honest and an open way. I think everybody does that. So, you know, if somebody's talking to somebody, you know, best team in England, Man City, and somebody has a go at Pep or has a go at the players, I'm sure that they're talking about that, and they'll use that whatever way they need to.
Yeah, it's motivation, isn't it? I guess on maybe like, as a manager on a personal level, how do you find a balance between holding it to use it as fuel and letting it go when it's not working for you?
Yeah, balance. You've got to get that balance right. I've never believed I need. I think I've contradicted myself a little bit here, James, because I think I've had to be a motivator at certain times. But I've never really found the need to motivate players, especially in the Premier League. You know, come on, have a look around you. You know, you're playing at Tottenham. We're playing at this incredible stadium, and you're playing, you know, Pochettino's the manager, and Harry Kane's up front, and Son and Dele Alli, and Moura and all those players. You know, you're playing at Anfield. You know, an incredible stadium. You're playing at Man City away. You got got Liverpool at home. So, you know, from a motivational point of view, it wasn't really needed. And I think, like I said, sometimes then you need to calm your boys down and making sure that there is a balance. The sort of the fire and ice. You know, the fire in your belly that you need to show. The aggression, the determination, the ice that you need to make good decisions, because to get those results and to get those performances, it wasn't just all about, you know, a chest thumping exercise. And I think, you know, some people in the game just looked at Sheffield United, and I think as well when we come up, and I think, you know, we're really uneducated about how we went about it in the League One and in the Championship, but others didn't. You know, I remember Keith Andrews doing a piece on us, and Andy Inchcliffe, and other guys that had watched us in the Championship and said, you know, this is a great division, and we're a decent side in that division at play in a way. But people thought still that, you know, it was goalkeeper to Brian Dean flick onto Tony Agana and whack it in the back of the net. Every ball that bounces in the middle of the park gets hooked on, and it's long throws and corners.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of why I asked that question, because I think there can be a lot of this. You know, if someone's an English manager, then they're just this fist pumping, get, and it's just, it's nonsense. And,
I didn't have a decent suit. I didn't have a decent suit. I've got a couple of decent suits now.
Well, there we go. Right.
That don't fit me. But yeah, it was. Yeah, I think you're right. I think Sean gets it. I think, you know, other people get it. And I think the English game's great. Top level, you know. Influx of foreign managers, quality operators. Tuchel he come to Sheffield United when they played us. It was one of his first games, and we were as a staff, we were so impressed about how he handled himself, about how his team went about it. He was brilliant, and these are world-class operators that are making the game better at the highest level. When
you're testing yourself against those managers, we as fans watch the game and go, okay, well, the plan happens here before it, and then it plays out, and you've got a couple of subs, you can do that. I was wondering, was there ever a moment, is there a game you can remember where sort of in game there was like a change from a manager, whoever that manager might be, where you're like, what is tactically what is going on, and then I guess you've got to kind of find the answer to that. Is there a moment you can remember?
Yeah, I think there'll be loads in games from everybody, you know, through people that have this perception that they don't, in terms of Sean Dyche or Roy Hodgson, like I said, archetypal English managers, to the best ones that in the world, you know, Pep and Jurgen Klopp. But we did when we come into the division, we thought, you know, this is going to be an incredible step up. But I found the Championship really technical and really tactical, and possibly at times just as much as the Premier League. The difference is that you know, the top managers are asking top players to do things, and they're doing it. So it's not really you know, you move here or you move there. It's allowing these players to express themselves, and you know, they've had the ability to go and buy a player and then put him into your team and then say, right, this is how I want you to play, go and produce that sort of performance. And I think that was the biggest thing, just the level of quality, that out of nowhere somebody could do something, and out of nowhere a team could do something. The Man United game springs to mind. We were 2-0 up, we were well on top, we're going into 70 minutes, and in an heartbeat, in the space of 8 minutes, we're 3-2 down. And I go, and I think if you were watching it, you'd go, you know, you'd be clapping, because there's some of the goals, and you're looking and going, should we have done this afterwards? Should we have done that? And you're going, well, no. But what's happened is that, you know, Martial has rolled it down the side to Greenwood. He's chopped it back, and Rashford's come in at the back stick, and it's a brilliant run, pass, cross, finish, and you can't really do anything about it. Yeah. Then sort of all of a sudden, their players have got the bit between their teeth. The second goes in, and the third goes in. And you go, well, and then you're going into the last 5 minutes of the game, and these are the moments that I suppose that you look back on and go, that was really good. I'm great that happened, because my team came roaring back and managed to get a last minute equaliser, and it felt like a win against Man United on a Sunday in front of a packed Bramall Lane crowd. You told Sky Sports that you okay? You told Sky Sports that Pep had said come and watch Man City train. Did you take up that offer? Well, I haven't yet, because I'm not sure he wants me around at the start of the season, but I will do. I've had some great offers, from manager at Man City, the manager at Leicester, manager at Burnley. So I think one of the things that I've enjoyed is building relationships with these guys as well, and not only just they're incredible football people, but they're good people as well, and they recognise that. I think they recognise that we gave it everything, and even though I think maybe to the outside world it looks quite a selfish game, it's quite insular and it's quite protective, and it at times looks after its own. So I will be. I think when the season really gets up and running, I think pick and choose my moment to go over and have a cup of tea, because yet again, manager at Man City, he's learning all the time. So if there's a place for him to learn, which I know he does, and drive his players forward, I'm sure there's a place for the likes of myself and other managers that find themselves in my position.
And whilst we're name dropping, I know you've spoken to Sir Alex Ferguson quite a lot over the years. I remember hearing stories was it through Jim Smith? You kind of met him. Have you had a chance to chat to Sir Alex?
Yeah, recently? I have. Yeah, I have. And yet again, I think if you speak to not just me, a lot of young managers around that time. The LMA were a fantastic organisation, so we had the ability to speak to likes of Sir Alex and Walter Smith and other ex-managers, Dave Bassett. Fortunately, I worked with Jim Smith at Oxford, and he had a great relationship with Sir Alex, and Jim Rosenthal as well, who was a director at Oxford at the time, was very close to Sir Alex. So another advantage, another opportunity that this game of ours gives you is to take those opportunities up, and I have, and have that opportunity to go to, and he's brilliant, and as he has been, not just to me, but I think if you speak to a lot of managers that have that had that opportunity, and he wants to help, and I think that's great that he did, and he still does take time out.
With him, is it because I just wish I could have a phone call, Sir Alex Ferguson. When you kind of do have that chat, is it you're always with someone who's that successful? You're kind of waiting for the gem. Like, is it all quite broad stuff when you talk about that kind of stuff? Does he still believe that management as an art it's still about being a leader of men?
Managing players, managing situations, dealing with situations, and experiences, and he's had every experience going under the sun. I talked to him about my experience, and he relayed 2 or 3 experiences that he's had in his time. So you feel, is it just happening to me? And it hasn't. It's happened to in my opinion, the greatest. So that gives you the confidence in that it's happened to him. Listen, I'm never putting myself in a category of what he's done, but it does give you a confidence and a calmness that that it has happened to other managers, and there's a way forward off the back of it.
Yeah, because I guess for you it was success after success. I don't think anyone's won more games as a manager in the last decade than yourself. So to kind of go through this new experience of having to leave a club, that is a sort of new emotion, experience, and feeling to.
I know, but listen, don't worry about it. I've had plenty of down days. I think you all go through that process. I've down days right the way through. I was at a football club that was going out of business, had 10 points, taken off of us through going into receivership. I've had that right the way through. I've had a period at Oxford that didn't go very well. I went into a football club at Northampton that were bottom of the league. So it hasn't, first 4 games at Sheffield United, period at Sheffield United midway through the championship season, and the last one, which was, it was very, very bruising and painful. So, there's very, very few managers that have it absolutely plain sailing, and I do believe those periods are periods that make you. And for me, even now, I feel a desire and hunger to right the wrong of last season. And people might say, well, it's all right because the last 20 years have been pretty much a successful sort of journey to where you want to be. but that doesn't take away that fight and desire and hurt to maybe prove a few people wrong and get back to where you want to be, and to get back on the bike and go again. And I think that is naturally in people that are in professional sport and want to work their way up to the top and work at the highest level.
Yeah, and I would imagine like when you are so used to winning, you obviously like Sir Alex Ferguson. I think it's fair to compare you with Sir Alex Ferguson in that sense. Where, you know, you've been consistently winning, so that other feeling, you know, is going to feel that little bit alien to you, and you're just going to be even more driven to go and be that winner again, right?
I think in sport, whatever you do, you know, you're working at the highest level. The players are working at the highest level. They don't want to lose at anything. Don't worry about that. See that swing ball behind me.
I'm ready when you are.
So it's game on. So you know anything you do, I think it's just in you in your upbringing. Yeah, listen, you take defeat. You have to accept defeat. You have to sometimes, you know, accept that you've not been good enough, or you know, you have to be magnanimous in defeat and respect the opposition. But you're going home, and that affects you, and that just doesn't affect you for the hour afterwards. That affects you in all day Saturday night, all day Sunday, all day Monday into Tuesday, and that's still with you until you get that next result, and then the next result feels like New Year's Eve, and that's how I was always put it. You know, and I think that's in me, and you know, majority, if not all, the people that I've worked against or been involved with as that same feeling.
Yeah. Do you have any regrets with Sheffield United at all?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, there's a few situations that I could have and should have handled differently. No doubt about it. I'm not going to come out and say it, obviously, because I don't think it's the right time. But inwardly, yeah, from a personal point of view, I have done. I'm not arrogant enough to think that I got everything right. There's certain things that I didn't get right, whether the relationships, lines of communication, situations that, you know, on pitch, off pitch, you know, signings that we made. You know, certain things that in hindsight I'd have changed and done a little bit different. But you're in the heat of the battle. You know, you're at the coal face, and you have to make those decisions. And I like to think I've made, for that football club, made more right decisions than wrong decisions. But certainly, yeah, I look back and think, you know, I could have, you know, maybe should have handled that situation a little bit better. And I think that happens in everything, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Whether in a relationship, whether you with your kids, whatever line of work you're in. You know, I don't think anybody gets it completely right all the time.
Definitely in your relationships.
Yeah.
I'm joking, love. Let's look forward then, because, I mean, anyone watching this right now who is a fan of any club, I was about to say EFL club, I don't think that's right. I don't think that's the marker. You can manage wherever wherever you want to. But I would imagine there's never, any of those fans would love you to be their manager. I mean, I'm happy with Mark Warburton right now, okay? That's not about you, that's just about how well Mark's doing. But there's never going to be a perfect job, I would imagine. But if there was a perfect job for you, I'd love to kind of break down the idea of what you're after from just kind of different compartments of being a manager. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's okay. You know, I've loved working. I don't think there's a perfect club. I don't think there'll ever be a perfect club. I think there's always going to be a dodge. I think there's always going to be situations that it isn't exactly how you want it to run. But it's a difficult question to answer, because I think every club has got their own dynamics and their own different one. And unless you're David Beckham at Inter Miami, where you can build your own football club, then you've got to deal with owners, you've got to deal with CEOs, you've got to deal with punters, you've got to manage up, you've got to manage sideways, you've got to manage down. So there's always different situations. Usually you walk into a football club that's broken. I walked into my first job 20 years ago at a football club that should have been doing better, that wasn't. You know, I walked into the Halifax one, just got relegated from the Football League. I walked into the Oxford one, that was 11th, 12th in the conference. I walked into the Northampton one that was bottom of League 2. At Christmas, I walked into the Sheffield United one that finished 12th in League One and had 6 seasons in there. And no doubt, my next job, I'll be very surprised if I don't walk into something that's broken, and I've got to use my experience and my qualities and the people around me to get that up and running as we have done in the previous one. I think that you always want to be involved in a football club that is really connected and has a passion and a drive, and that can be brought to the table by a lot of people, supporters, owners, managers, players, or whatever. But I've really enjoyed my journey. I've really enjoyed, as I've said to you before, playing as a player manager. I enjoyed the time at Halifax. Learned everything, learned so much. Had to deal with so many situations. It's incredible. Oxford was a great period in getting them back into the Football League, which was fabulous. The Northampton one, to turn that round in the time that we did, and obviously my hometown club was always going to be a bit special if we got that rocking and rolling in the right direction, and we certainly did.
Would you ever manage abroad? Would you ever want to do that?
Yeah, I would. Yeah. I would.
Any other languages sort of hide in there that we'd
not at the moment, but I do enjoy the English game. I would. I mean, I'm open. I would be open to different opportunities. America intrigues me. It really does. I think that the attitude of the Americans, the North Americans, whether it's the teams in Canada, whether it's the teams in America, how they go about the business, their attitude to sport and business in general, and how professional they are, and how that is kicking on as well. Going into the World Cup in 7 years' time. Is it 28, the World Cup over there?
I think so.
So how they'll get that right as well, because they get the majority of things right in terms of sport and how sport is run. So that intrigues me.
And what about the fact that if we're honest, you're a manager who's taken a club from the Championship to the Premier League. That's a very sought after thing. But the Premier League is obviously a huge league, the biggest league in the world. You're going to get put towards loads of jobs, both in the Championship and in the Premier League. What will be your process of kind of computing that? Because I'm aware that you want to get back into it all, but it's quite tricky to pick the right job. And there's probably been managers in the past who've gone, I want that Premier League job, and there's others that have gone, I'll just take whatever I can.
I'd look at
tricky,
You look at every opportunity on face value. The people that are owning it, the history, the support, the infrastructure, the facilities, the players that they've got. I think now I've done enough to be selective without not wanting to get my hands dirty, but I would get my hands dirty. If it was something happened in League One that I thought had an ambition to go forward, and people go, well, you don't really work no, I want to work in the Premier League. Really, I'll most probably end up working in the Championship, which is brilliant, and I love working in the Championship as well. And I always thought it's difficult as well for English managers. I always thought that you have to take a team out of the Championship into the Premier League. Dean Smith did it. Sean did it at Burnley. It's very rare that English managers will get offered the opportunity of managing top clubs, and I understand that. Loads of foreign owners. There's that. World-class operators, Tuchel. Pep Guardiola, Brendan Rodgers. I think I'm a huge fan. He took a team Swansea into the Premier League, and then got the Liverpool job, and then obviously went and had his success at Celtic and back into the Premier League. So of course working in the Premier League has to be an ambition of anybody in this game, whether they're sports scientists, whether they're video analysis guy, whether they're an assistant manager, whether they're a player or whether they're a manager or whether they're a supporter. You want to be there because that's the best place to be. But to get there, you've got to work hard, and you've got to do a lot of things right. But I love the Championship. It was a brilliant league, and I would imagine that's where you know, an opportunity most probably will come around. But you know, if of course if there was a Premier League club that did make an approach, you know, of course you'd be fool not to think about it and explore that situation.
Yeah. I've got to ask. It just popped into my head. League One, Sheffield Wednesday. You'd never take that job.
I'd never take that job.
You'd never take that job.
Just to put that on record.
Okay, that's great. That's
never.
Never.
I talking about, you talked about Ian Holloway, who I get on great with. I think he's brilliant. I listened to, I think he was doing something with Colin Murray podcast, and he talked about, you know, I think that there's some of the players that couldn't have red cars, and if they had a red car, they had to leave it at the end of the road, and you weren't allowed into Bristol Rovers training ground. That's and right. You know, and stuff like that. And I agree with him. You know, that's part of my personality. That's part of my upbringing, my history. That I couldn't. That's just one of those things that, you know, I couldn't do. And first of all, I couldn't do. But second of all, I don't think they'd ever want me anyway. So, you know, thanks for just putting a little bit more aggravation on my toes in the city of Sheffield.
Apologies. I think, do you know what?
They've not listened to me have a pop at them for about 6 months, so they'll be delighted.
I think people respect that. They do. I think I've spoken to Spurs fans who really respected Jack Wilshere when he sings the song afterwards, because it's well, at least you feel it too. I think that's important.
The mate's manager at Sheffield Wednesday as well, so
yeah, exactly.
And he's going to do a good job anyway, and he's a good man, and he's a good manager as well, and I'm sure that they're in for a successful season.
He said for gritted teeth.
Very.
Yeah, he is doing it. He's doing very well. You should speak about what makes that he's a good manager. I can't not chat to you without, you know, finding out what you truly believe makes a good manager. Maybe specifically in the EFL, but I wouldn't kind of, you know, narrow it down to that. What do you believe is needed if you're going to be a good manager?
I think you've got to have a skill set that is good on a load of fronts to be a manager at any level, whether it's non-league, moving into the football league, into the EFL, right the way through. And there's some outstanding operators that just don't get the opportunity or don't have that slice of luck. I do believe that, and I do sometimes believe it's like a bit snakes and ladders, that, you know, there's no one way for you to go from this position to that position. You have to endure experiences, but I think you've got to be good. You've got to be good at every aspect. You've got to be, you know, tactically, technically, you've got to be good. You know, you've got to understand the game on a lot of fronts. I think, you know, the man management is always, you work, like we've talked about before, you know, you're working with footballers, but you're working with human beings, and you've got to have that connection with them, and you have to adjust and adapt as well, through to when I was, you know, putting my own music on in the change room in 2001, whether it's a bit of Oasis and a bit of Jam, now to listening to some of the rubbish that's in the change room now, and telling people that, yeah, I really like this. So you have to
get that to yourself.
Yeah, you have to have that You have to have that connection, that man management, and I think an honesty and integrity about it, because I think people will see through you if you don't. And the love of the game, you know, the love of the game. I've never understood it, even from a player's point of view, when I've played with players that would not be bothered about, you know, for me, there's a game on the box, you know, tonight or whatever, or there's a game round the corner later on, and I might have a little walk over there and sit with my pals and have a chat and have a get together. And it's football, and it's just a love of football and the love of being around football people. I think that's really important as well, and it's something that I've missed enormously.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're missing having you there as well, but it has worked out for me because I've been able to come here and chat to you. It's been brilliant. I'm excited, and here's ending to a video I didn't think I'd ever do. So first of all, subscribe to League of 72. Hit the like button if you've enjoyed this chat with Chris. Let us know what you think. If you're a supporter of a team and you think Chris might be the man for you. We can do it that way, can't we? You can get that in the comments as well. I'm off to play swing ball with Chris Wilder.